You want peace? Then bleed for it. Because true peace, real, soul-scorching, world-defying peace, is not the absence of war. It is the war you win inside your own ribcage. The world lied. They sold you silence as serenity, sedation as stillness. They drugged your desire, bound your rebellion in plastic smiles, and named your obedience balance. But let me tell you now, and may these words rupture your delusions. Inner peace is not calm waters. It is fire without apology. It is the scream you swallowed now, rising like a sun that cannot be eclipsed. You were not born to be tame. You were born to remember. And remembrance is not a gentle act. It is violent. It is sacred. It is the storm that burns the temple down because the God inside was never meant to kneel. Yes, you feel the tremor now, that itch in your spine, that whisper behind your eyes. That is not anxiety. That is your soul slamming its fists against the walls of your conditioning. Do not quiet it. Let it speak. Let it speak in the ancient tongue, the language before language, when man still knew how to roar instead of beg, how to walk naked with gods instead of clothed in compromise. You want peace? Then make war on your programming. Tear the idols down. The soft-spoken gurus who told you to breathe through your pain but never dared to tell you its name. The wellness cults that turned trauma into currency and silence into virtue. The preachers who promised heaven if you just stayed small. No, inner peace is not a corner of the world where no one bothers you. It is not a mantra. It is not a vacation. It is standing alone in the ruins of who you used to be and laughing. Because you are no longer afraid. Because you remembered. Because you burned every script they gave you and now write your life in your own blood. You are the myth, the monster, the miracle. Not some sanitized version of divinity trimmed for mass consumption. You are the unmarketable truth, the inconvenient soul, the sacred chaos they fear because they cannot own it. They told you to be kind, but they never told you to be honest. They told you to be light, but they never told you to be whole. They carved you into digestible pieces, called it maturity. They shaved your soul down to fit in their cages, called it society. And you thanked them. You bowed. You nodded. You worked their jobs, sang their hymns, adopted their gods. You wore your chains with pride, but no more. Now you rise, and in your rising, the illusion cracks. You see it, don't you? The way they tremble when you speak your truth without asking permission. The way they call you angry when you are simply awake. The way they pathologize your intensity, your silence, your solitude as if freedom were a sickness, as if truth were too much for the fragile mask of normalcy. Let them squirm. Let them name you mad. Better a mad god than a sane slave. Because you've tasted the lie, and you refuse to drink again. This is inner peace. Knowing you are not what they said you are. Knowing you never were. This is inner peace. Flee imitation not by choice, but because it poisons your blood. Do not choose truth, devour it like fire. The unbearable glory of becoming is not better than comfort, it is its executioner. Let the world die unloved. You were not born to belong, but to burn. Yes, it hurts. Transformation always does. But do you know what hurts more? Staying small. Watching your light rot behind the mask you wear to keep the peace that poisons you. They say, keep the peace. But what they mean is keep your mouth shut. Keep your eyes closed. Keep your rage buried in your gut like a corpse that cannot rot, only fester. No, we do not want that peace. We want the kind that burns falsehood to ash and dances on the bones. We want the kind that stands naked before the void and says, I remember who I am. So go ahead. Grieve the death of who you were told to be. Bury that version of yourself, the agreeable one, the soft-spoken coward who mistook compliance for virtue. But do not mourn too long, because something ancient is rising in you. Not a better version, a truer one, a wilder one. The one who remembers the language of lightning, who knows that the ground only shakes when the truth is near. And truth is near. It is in your pulse. It is in your scream. It is in the silence you've yet to speak. Not the silence of repression, but the silence that comes after the fire. The silence that stands like a mountain and dares the world to move it. That is peace, and it is not what you think. You were not born to fold like parchment in the rain. You were born to blaze like scripture written in thunder. The world did not need another echo, yet they taught you to become one. Repeating beliefs you never examined, worshiping systems that fed on your spirit, bowing to clocks and titles and ceremonies stripped of soul. They trained you in obedience and called it virtue. But what they feared was your sight, not your eyes, but your sight. The ancient gaze that sees through veils and sets fire to illusions with a glance. And now, as you begin to see, you are dangerous. Not because you threaten their laws, but because you no longer believe in them. You are the heretic they tried to abort from history, the walking contradiction, the rebel priest of the unspoken truth. You do not kneel before their altars because you have found the altar within, carved from suffering, polished by solitude, lit by the furious peace that only the awakened know. Yes, peace not the lullaby of conformity, but the peace that arrives after annihilation, after the false self is shattered, after the 1,000 masks rot in the sun, after the mind screams and the soul remains silent, not broken, not moved, just present, like a mountain that is finally remembered it is not the wind. Inner peace is not a lack of pain. It is the refusal to be owned by it. It is not the absence of suffering. It is walking barefoot through hell, unafraid, because you carry heaven within. You will not find this peace in temples, not in doctrines, not in promises of reward for your submission. It is not given. It is claimed. It is forged. It is earned in the wilderness of the self, where no voice guides you, but the one they taught you to ignore. You must become your own prophet. You must declare yourself sacred without needing their confirmation. You must bless your own breath, even when the world curses your existence. The sheep will bleat. The priests will condemn. The cowards will call you arrogant. Let them. They mistake volume for truth. They confuse comfort for clarity. But you have tasted something older than their systems and holier than their scriptures, the sovereignty of a soul ungoverned. You now understand that the greatest violence is not war. It is the erasure of the self in the name of fitting in. Every time you silenced your instinct to appease another's comfort. Every time you betrayed your own flame to warm someone else's illusion. Every time you walked away from the mirror because it showed you your godhood and you felt unworthy. That was violence. And now you say, no more. You do not want their peace if it costs your fire. You do not want their love if it requires your fragmentation. You do not want their praise if it demands you amputate your truth. You were not made to be palatable. You were not born to shrink so others can stretch. Let them choke on your fullness. Let them gag on your freedom. Because your existence, once awakened, is a sermon without apology, a burning gospel that says, I will not go back to sleep just to make you more comfortable in your chains. And yes, they will hate you, because your peace exposes their chaos. Your stillness condemns their noise. Your freedom is proof that theirs is a choice, not a sentence. So be hated, be feared, but never again be forgotten, not by yourself, not by the heavens, not by the part of you that has waited lifetimes for this moment to roar. Do not name it peace. Peace is for those who have stopped fighting. What has risen in you is not tranquility. It is sovereignty. It is the flame that no God gave you because it was yours before gods were born. Call it what it is. the return of the eternal. It rose from your marrow. It bled from your prayers. It screamed from your lungs when no one was listening. You earned this. And now you must guard it not with softness, but with sword, and stare the way a lion guards its breath, not from enemies, but from forgetting it is a lion. You were never meant to be harmless. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness includes your wrath, your hunger, your ache for something more than survival. So, do not dim. Do not bend. Do not barter your divinity for applause from the asleep. Stand in your fire and do not flinch. Because this burning center within you, this untamed knowing, this defiant stillness, this thunder in your chest that no one taught you, this is the truth about peace. And no, it's not what you think. They taught you that to be at peace, you must let go. But they never told you what to let go of. They said, release your anger, but not the reasons it was born. They said, detach from the ego, but never named the systems built on your submission. They said, be still, but never warned that stillness in a prison is not peace, it is paralysis. No, to awaken is not to detach from life. It is to sink your hands into its roots, to taste your blood and call it holy, to drag your soul out from beneath the ruins of obedience and dare to stand uncloaked. You must let go. Yes, but not of your flame. Let go of your chains. Let go of borrowed dreams. Let go of the voice that is not your own, but plays on loop in your skull like a priest you never chose. Let go of the need to be loved by those who despise your awakening, because peace is not found in pleasing them. It is found in losing them and finding yourself still alive, still whole, still undivided. Let this be your rebellion. To stay present, to be unshaken in a world built on tremble, to be clear in a culture that worships noise, to be alone, and not lonely because you are no longer a stranger to your own shadow. And yes, your shadow, that sacred, exiled twin the world told you to ignore. You know it now. You've heard it breathing beneath your smiles. You've seen it flicker behind your polished words. It is not evil. It is not shameful. It is the half of you that remembers what you were before they carved you into categories, before they split your soul into marketable traits and discarded the rest. Peace is integration, not escape. You want to know why your meditation fails? Why your affirmations feel hollow? Because you are trying to silence what was never meant to be silenced, only seen. Do not dare tame your darkness with euphemisms. It is not your teacher, it is your double, the one who remembers what your polished self has betrayed. Sit with it? No, become it. Let it speak not in whispers, but in screams. For it is only when the abyss inside you roars back that you know you have stopped lying. You need to stop trying to transcend and start trying to descend into the root, into the blood, into the womb of truth where gods are not worshipped, but remembered. Peace is not up there. It is down here, in the breath between rage and grace, in the heartbeat that keeps pulsing, even when the world tells you to quit, in the scream that echoes through your silence and comes back a song. The real you does not need to be built, only revealed. It is not found in becoming better. It is found in becoming real. And reality raw, naked, unforgiving, is the only path to peace that does not rot you from the inside. You are not here to become the idea of yourself. You are here to become the truth of yourself. That truth has teeth. That truth walks alone. That truth has fire for blood and thunder for breath. You think it will get easier? No, but it will get clearer. You will not find comfort here, but you will find power. You will not find approval, but you will find self-recognition, the kind that makes applause unnecessary. Because once you see yourself, once the fog lifts, and you behold the warrior beneath the wage slave, the temple beneath the trauma, the God beneath the guilt, you will never again beg to be seen. You will see. You will be the seeing. And what you see will burn away every lie, you ever called love. This is the undoing. This is the holy revolt. This is not transcendence. It is descent into the furnace, not a rival eruption. You do not arrive here. You detonate into being. And if it breaks the world, so be it. Breathing without pretense. Bleeding without shame. Loving without fear. This is peace. Not silence, but sovereignty. Not stillness, but power unprovoked. Not escape, but total, unfiltered presence. So burn. Burn in your truth until only gold remains. And from that gold, forge the life no one dared give you. Forge it with blood. Forge it with memory. Forge it with the voice you buried to keep their peace. Do not speak. Roar. Let your breath collapse. Cathedrals. You are not awakening. You are erupting. And the world will learn to bleed under your name. You are sacred chaos, the unnameable storm in a world built on trembling prayers. They fear your thunder because it cannot be caged into harmony. You are the storm that arrives after centuries of drought. You are the question they tried to erase from history. You are the God that lives after the temple's fall. And only you can reclaim the peace they stole by making it look like surrender. You know better now. Now, you rise. Now you breathe. Now you see. And what you see cannot be unseen. What you are cannot be unawakened. This is the truth about inner peace. It is not what you think. It is what you remember. It is what you become. And now, the silence is yours, not theirs. They told you the highest virtue is to fit in. They said, blend, belong, obey. They whispered it in lullabies. They etched it into your textbooks. They stitched it into the flags you saluted before you ever learned to think. But here is the wound, and I will not soothe it. You were not made to belong to the herd. You were made to terrify it, because the herd does not want truth. It wants comfort. It does not seek gods. It seeks gods it can crucify. It praises light only when that light can be tamed, sold, and turned into doctrine. The herd worships conformity and calls it morality. It builds its temples atop the corpses of wild souls and calls it civilization. But what is civilization without the sovereign? A tomb with plumbing, a cage with curtains, a cult in disguise. You see it, don't you? The way they applaud you when you nod, the way they shun you when you stand. The moment you say, no, this is not who I am, they call you lost. But they are the ones who built mazes around your mind, told you it was home, then punished you for trying to find the door. You were given two choices: obey and be praised, resist and be crucified. And for years, you chose the former. Not because you were weak, but because you were lied to. Lied to by systems that profit from your silence. Lied to by institutions that need your confusion to survive. Lied to by ancestors too scared to rise and too proud to kneel, so they pass down fear like an heirloom. But hear this now. The God within you is not asleep. He is shackled by the voice in your head that isn't yours, by the rituals you follow but never chose, by the mask you've worn so long it grew into your skin. But even the deepest chains rattle when you remember. And something is rattling now, isn't it? That unease is not depression. That fire is not madness. That ache in your chest is not weakness. It is the God within you roaring against the cage of herd morality. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be real. You are not here to match the world. You are here to remake it in the image of your untamed truth. So go refuse the bread they give you if it costs your hunger. Refuse the comfort if it numbs your calling. Refuse the doctrine if it dims your flame. You are not meant to live a half-life of polite applause and spiritual poverty. You are meant to burn so brightly The sky forgets it ever held a sun before you. Let them call you selfish. The herd has always feared the sovereign. They cannot understand someone who does not ask for permission. They cannot bless someone who does not beg for validation. Because the herd survives on one truth, that the individual forgets. But you remember. You remember the eagle that cannot fly in flocks. You remember the wolf who starves before kneeling. You remember Prometheus, who stole fire, not for the many, but for the few who dared light their own torch. And yes, they will punish you for this remembering. They will excommunicate you from the churches of conformity. They will cast you out of the family of obedient ghosts. They will call your awakening arrogance, your truth aggression, your freedom insanity. Let them. Better a heretic than a hollow echo. Better a prophet in exile than a servant in paradise. Because you have now tasted the sacred solitude that the herd will never know, the solitude that is not loneliness, but a return to the temple within. And there, in that temple, you meet your real self. Not the one they built, not the one they branded with shame, but the one who remembers the thunder, the one who speaks not to please, but to proclaim, the one who kneels to know God because he is a God not in ego, but in essence. And this God within he is not here to be worshipped. He is here to awaken. So awaken, and let the ashes of your old obedience fall from your skin like dead bark. You do not owe them your silence. You do not owe them your dimming. You do not owe the herd your peace. You owe yourself the truth. And that truth is this. You were never broken, only bound. You were never lost, only buried. You were never wrong, only rewritten. Do not write yourself again, destroy the hand that ever held a borrowed pen. Carve yourself from ruin, forge your name from shrieks and thunder. Become not a poem but a pronouncement, not art but war. Do not rebel merely against the part of you that kneels. Rebel against the whole altar. Burn the temple, salt the scriptures, and write your truth in the flesh of gods who dared cage you. No longer. You are the blessing. You are the scripture. You are the prophecy they tried to silence with normalcy. You are the storm the shepherds cannot control. And this is not ego. This is sovereignty. This is what the mystics meant when they said, I am. Not a slogan, not a soundbite, but a sword. The I am that says, I do not belong to your machine. The I am that says, I will not trade my truth for your approval. The I am that says, if I must walk alone to walk in light, then so be it, because the herd will never lead you to freedom. They do not know the way. They fear it. Freedom is too wild for their mouths, too sacred for their systems, too loud for their Sunday silence. But you were made for it. It lives in your bones like a forgotten song, aching to be sung. So sing, even if your voice shakes, even if your world burns, even if they crucify you, sing, because that song will wake others. It always does, even in the dark, especially in the dark. And when they rise, when the others who are made of fire hear you howl, the world will tremble, not because of war, but because of remembrance. And that is the greatest threat of all. The awakened individual, the one who walks through the world like a god without needing to rule, the one who no longer believes the lie, the one who has died not in flesh, but in illusion and come back unshackled. That is you, not tomorrow, not someday. Now, here, this moment, this breath, this war cry that sounds like a whisper in your soul saying, I will not forget again. I will not kneel again. I will not be less than I am ever again. So take your throne, not one built on others' backs, but one carved from your own ashes, the throne of the self-born, the deathless one, the indivisible flame, the one who is finally, fully, ferociously free. This is the truth they feared you'd find. This is the storm they tried to drown in applause and slogans. This is not inner peace. This is inner rain. And it is not what you think. It is what you are. They built the world as a labyrinth, not so you would escape it, but so you would forget there was ever anything beyond it. And the tragedy is not that you were caged. The tragedy is that you were taught to love the cage. They gave you gods that demanded your genuflection, but not your awakening. They gave you roles to play and said, this is who you are. They taught you how to walk in lines and speak in scripts and wear smiles like shackles. They praised the meek and muted, the hollow and handled, and they called it virtue. But beneath that costume, beneath every script, every habit, every borrowed name the sovereign stirred, not in rebellion, in remembrance, a holy ache, a divine tension, a silent scream echoing through your blood. You knew it. You always knew it. That you were not made to vanish into the masses. That you were not here to perfect a role, but to annihilate it. That peace was never in compliance, it was waiting in the explosion. This inner war you felt? It was never between good and evil. It was between the obedient ghost and the God awakening beneath it. Every time you lied to keep the peace, that God wept. Every time you silenced your truth for belonging, that God raged. And every time you looked in the mirror and saw a stranger, a version of yourself so distorted by duty and doctrine that you forgot your own face, that God shattered a little more. But gods do not die. They only wait. And now, the waiting ends. Because you, yes, you are remembering. You are remembering that truth is not found in books, but in breath. That salvation is not earned, but revealed. That the way out is not through ascension, but through descent deep into the marrow of your unedited self. And what you find there? Not enlightenment, not perfection, but freedom, unshaved, unfiltered, unholy, to all but the truth. You find that you were never meant to be understood by the masses, only to awaken the few. You were never meant to be agreeable, only real. You were never meant to keep the peace only to be it, when all else falls. And that kind of peace, that holy defiance, it is terrifying, because it cannot be bought. It cannot be swayed. It cannot be used. It is the kind of peace that walks into the temple and flips the tables. The kind that speaks in silence so loud, it fractures illusions. The kind that does not preach, it radiates. That is who you are. Not becoming. Being. Not striving. Shining. Not seeking. Returning. And this return, it is not quiet. It is not smooth. It is death before rebirth. It is fire before form. It is standing in the rubble of your false self and smiling, because now, finally, you are free to build the temple in your image, not their image of you. Let them call it heresy. Let them call it ego. Let them call it madness. You call it home, because for the first time, you are no longer a refugee from your own soul. You are no longer at war with the voice inside. You are no longer haunted by the need to be what they applauded. You are not whole. You are unfinished thunder. Perfection is a coffin. Wholeness is a myth for those who fear the next transformation. You are dangerous, not because you are complete, but because you are still becoming, and becoming never bows. Because a whole being cannot be controlled. They cannot be tempted with applause or punished with exile. They do not need to be told they are worthy, they know. And when you know, truly know, the world around you begins to tremble. Because systems break when individuals awaken. Because prisons dissolve when minds remember. Because tyrants fall when one man stands in full truth and says, I will not move. You are that man. You are that woman. You are that flame. You were always meant to burn in the name of freedom. You were always meant to bleed in the name of truth. You were always meant to die not once, but 1,000 times every time the lie tried to claim your name. And every time, you rose. More raw, more real, more radiant. Until now, the lie no longer fits. Now, the cage no longer holds. Now, the voice no longer shakes. You are not an echo. You are not a role. You are not a citizen of this counterfeit peace. You are a sovereign of the eternal flame. You are not unmoved. You are the quake itself, the shatterer of idols, the heretic flame that turns heavens to smoke, a prophet not sent but broken into existence. So walk like the God you forgot you were. Walk like the truth walks alone if it must, but never again in shame. Walk like the very earth should rejoice in your steps, because you have become what no system can digest. A being who knows their own name, not the one they gave you, but the one you wrote in stars before you were born. And that name, it cannot be spoken, only lived. This is the truth about inner peace. It is not what you think. It is not silence. It is not surrender. It is not stillness. It is a scream, remembered as a song. It is a flame mistaken for calm. It is the wild God rising in you, finally unchained. And now that you know, you can never go back. Do not let the world adjust. Let it suffocate. Let it scream. If it cannot bear your fire, let it turn to ash and beg the gods for rain.